When powerful enemies cannot control your love, they try to destroy the ground beneath it. The threat did not arrive with shouting headlines or public accusations. It arrived quietly, disguised as opportunity. Isabella received a formal notice from the City Planning Commission requesting a sudden structural audit of the cliffside mansion, citing anonymous safety concerns about environmental impact and foundational stability. The timing was precise, too precise to be coincidence. The mansion was weeks from completion, investors were watching, and Alexander's newest corporate merger depended partly on the property's projected valuation. One regulatory delay could ripple through multiple deals. Isabella stood inside the nearly finished living room, staring at the official document in her hand, feeling anger rise, not fear, because she knew her work, and she knew it was flawless. "This is targeted," she said calmly as Alexander read the notice beside her, jaw tightening with controlled fury. He did not need evidence to understand the source. The rival executive who had mocked them at the gala owned enough influence to trigger investigations without leaving fingerprints. "I can make one call and end this," he said, his voice low, dangerous. "And prove them right," she replied immediately, meeting his gaze. "If this disappears because of your power, they will assume it should have existed." The truth hung between them, heavier than any accusation. For the first time, their challenge was not gossip, but calculated sabotage. Engineers, inspectors, environmental analysts descended upon the property within days, scrutinizing every beam, every measurement, every material choice. Cameras followed, documenting progress, turning private creation into public spectacle. Isabella remained composed, answering questions with technical precision, refusing to show even a flicker of doubt. Yet privately, the strain carved into her composure. Architecture required certainty, but this investigation was designed to create uncertainty. Alexander watched her handle interrogation after interrogation without leaning on him, and pride mixed with something deeper, something dangerously close to awe. She did not need rescue, she demanded fairness. Late one evening, after the inspectors left, Isabella remained alone inside the house, reviewing structural data under soft overhead lights when Alexander arrived unannounced. "You should be resting," he said quietly, observing the exhaustion she tried to conceal. "I will rest when they run out of accusations," she answered, not looking up from the digital schematics glowing before her. He stepped closer, noticing the faint tremor in her fingers, the toll constant scrutiny was taking. "This is my world," he said carefully. "Battles, influence, pressure. You were never meant to stand in this storm alone." She finally looked at him, eyes sharp but vulnerable. "I am not standing in your storm, Alexander. This is ours now." The word ours shifted something inside him, because shared risk binds stronger than romance ever could. Days later, an inspector publicly questioned the cliffside foundation, suggesting erosion vulnerability despite clear geological reports proving stability. The insinuation was subtle, yet strategic, planting doubt in media coverage. Isabella requested an open site demonstration, inviting press, engineers, and city officials to witness live stress testing of the foundation. Alexander recognized the brilliance immediately. She was not hiding, she was confronting. During the demonstration, massive equipment applied controlled force to structural supports, sensors measuring response in real time. The ocean roared below as if participating in the spectacle. Isabella stood before cameras, explaining load distribution, wind resistance, material resilience, her voice steady, unwavering. When final results confirmed structural integrity exceeding safety standards, applause broke out among observers, and even skeptical reporters shifted tone. The narrative turned, not completely, but significantly. Strength had answered sabotage. That night, under a sky streaked with violet dusk, Alexander found her alone on the terrace overlooking the ocean. "You were extraordinary," he said softly, and this time there was no corporate mask, no strategic calculation, only admiration. She exhaled slowly, tension finally loosening. "They wanted me to doubt myself," she admitted, "and for a moment, I almost did." He stepped closer, lifting her chin gently. "Do not let anyone make you question what you built," he said, "whether it is this house or us." The vulnerability in his voice matched hers, and for the first time since the scandal began, they allowed themselves a moment, not of defiance, but of tenderness. Yet peace is fragile when enemies remain patient. Days later, financial pressure emerged from another angle. Investors within Alexander's company began expressing concern about reputational risk, linking his personal life to corporate performance. A confidential board meeting was scheduled without his request. When he informed Isabella, she felt the familiar tightening in her chest. "This is the part where you choose," she said quietly, not accusatory, simply aware of reality. He held her gaze steadily. "I already chose," he answered. But choices carry consequence, and consequence was approaching quickly. The board meeting was intense, filled with measured language, masking blunt intention. Several members suggested publicly announcing a professional separation from Isabella to protect shareholder confidence. Alexander listened without interruption until silence fell, expecting his response. "My personal life does not require your approval," he said evenly, yet steel edged his tone, "and the integrity of this project is measurable, not speculative. If confidence depends on rumor rather than results, perhaps we are addressing the wrong weakness." His refusal shocked some, impressed others, but it was clear compromise would not come easily. When he left the boardroom, the sky above the city was heavy with storm clouds, echoing the cliffside days before. He drove directly to Isabella, not to update her, but to stand beside her, because partnership required presence, not reassurance from afar. Inside the mansion, now nearly complete, they walked through finished corridors, sunlight filtering through expansive glass, illuminating polished stone floors. "It feels different," she whispered, touching the wall gently. "It feels earned," he replied. They had survived scrutiny, sabotage, pressure, yet something fundamental had shifted. Love, once secretive, was now deliberate, no longer accidental, but chosen repeatedly, despite cost. As evening settled, Alexander received confirmation that the structural audit had officially cleared the project, all allegations dismissed. Victory, however, felt quieter than expected, because survival had demanded sacrifice, energy, trust, illusions of control. Standing together at the panoramic window overlooking endless ocean, Isabella realized foundations are not proven by absence of storm, but by endurance through it. Alexander slipped his hand into hers, openly, no hesitation, no calculation, and for once, neither cared who might see. Whatever they faced next would not be subtle, it would not hide behind anonymous complaints, it would be direct and personal, because when influence fails, intimidation escalates, and somewhere beyond the calm horizon, forces who underestimated both architect and billionaire were preparing a final move, not against the mansion, but against the bond that had made them stronger than either expected. Chapter 4 closed, not in chaos, but in anticipation, the quiet before a decisive confrontation, where love would no longer defend itself, it would define itself, publicly, or fall trying.